Now, this year during the legislative session, lawmakers had to cut millions from public schools. I think it was something like 122 million or 128 million, something around there. What would you urge lawmakers to do to raise revenues to fund education? Because this year or next year, most of the reserve funds are gone, and there's nothing left. There's no stimulus. There's no, like I said, no reserves. So what would you urge lawmakers to do to raise funding for public schools?
Well, I think that's going to be, again, a midterm and long-term challenge. And I think two things have to happen. Next year, I think the legislature has to commit to stabilizing education. Now, we've heard from some sources that 7.5% cut isn't so bad. I beg to differ, and during this campaign we'll be giving example after example after example. Starting with the most recent one in Melba, where their entire music program is gone. We have to remember, and it's back to these 115 districts you indicated earlier, that scale and size has a real relationship with how badly districts get hurt. Scale and size tied with either a plan or the absence of a plan. In our school district, we saw some of this coming. I mean, the reality of our lives, and one of the benefits of being in the field for 40 years is you've lived through this, peaks and valleys in fiscal setting. And I'm originally from Michigan, and I don't know if you know anything about the state, but the state's been in an economic doldrum for 10 years, and the school systems in particular have suffered tremendously. One who is in that setting learns hopefully from that setting and brings those experiences into new settings. And so we started about 3 or 4 years ago in my own school district to plan for an economic downturn. We worked with all of the employee groups and school units, basically saying this is coming. Let's look at how we structure our fund balance. Let's look at how we use our vacancy credit. We've averaged about 100 teacher retirements a year over the last 8 years, actually more. And so how to perhaps, and as we know, 85% of the spending in most school systems, 80 to 90% of the spending in most school systems is people. And so if you are going to make efficiencies, they involve people and positions. And when we had the ability to make consolidations and make changes and make alterations, it was tied to a plan and tied to a process and tied to basically an effort that was going to prepare us for the not so good days ahead. But the key not only was the planning, but the communication of the plan and who participated in it. And everybody got to participate, including the Teachers Association at the first level. And what we found is knowledge really is a helpful asset in this whole effort to end up saying to people, we're going to pay you less next year than we paid you this year. That doesn't go down real well unless people are involved and understand and are part of it. So that's what we did. That's what the state needs to do on a consistent basis, as well as then given the opportunity to develop a plan, a real plan for the state that is realistically focused on not symptoms affecting education, but causes affecting education, and bringing about a plan that people in the state understand, accept, and will support. Then you can go to the people and the legislators who represent the people and the money the people spend for education, not the state's money, and say to them, this is the plan that has been developed by the state. Now let's get about the business of resourcing it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to cost more or it's going to cost less or it's going to cost more in this area or whatever else. It means it's the plan that people really want and need for Idaho to move ahead onto fixed goals and fixed destinations, as opposed to a little of this and a little of that and this silver bullet and that silver bullet, and boy, this is the deal of the day or the program of the day. And that's what we've had.